got something you'll be interested in. Those performance upgrades we discussed after the last race. They're on the car and the data looks promising. Take a look at the details.
What's going on, guys? Aarava here, and welcome back to my F1 2017 Career Mode, episode number 10 today for the British Grand Prix at Silverstone. And we've got a new part fitted, the one that we actually tried to fit last time out, but obviously failed, and we had to spend 500 points at the end of the last episode to actually fix. So we finally got that. We've got the second powertrain upgrade to date on our car in the R&D tree, and that will finally open us up on the left-hand side of the tree. So technically, we've kind of opened up and started to work on every single aspect of the R&D tree. We've done the chassis, we've done 2 upgrades on that, I believe. 1 upgrade on the aerodynamics, we've done 1 on durability, and now we've got 2 on the powertrain. Of course, the Toro Rosso, a little bit down on power. Now you can see we can either go left, which is going to give us more engine power, or actually if we go down, we can work on fuel efficiency, which obviously, apart from China, we haven't had too much issues with fuel consumption, really. So I think we'll probably just go for more power in reality, but also I may want to look at aerodynamics with the next few races coming up. But at the moment, we just don't have the points to spend. We're going to have to just continue on with the practice programs and try and do the best we can in the quali and the race. Of course, all of that adds up to the resource points. But we're going to change in the old components onto number 2, as I mentioned at the end of the last episode, having to already maybe use the 3rd internal combustion engine as we're starting to wear them down a little bit. I'm not going to lie, I think it may be very useful to spend some points on the durability upgrade for the internal combustion engine, because even I'm struggling a little bit now with the second one already being quite worn. So we're going to use those. Gearbox is fine for now, but we're going to swap in even to the first component for 2 of those engine parts for practice.
Welcome to Silverstone, home of Formula One racing in Great Britain, where shortly we're expecting the cars to appear for today's practice session. Anthony Davidson, you've driven this circuit more than a few times in your career, and you've been around long enough to remember the pre-wing layout as well. But how do you like Silverstone in its current guise?
Well, the old circuit was a lot of fun, of course, but I do like the current layout. The reprofiled Abbey is faster than it used to be, and I always felt it was missing a sort of slow technical section. And now the corners up at Village and the Loop gives us that. So yeah, I'm a fan, and on top of that, I think it's created some more overtaking opportunities.
Right, so practice in our home Grand Prix, the Silverstone circuit, the British Grand Prix. Of course, want to try and get the weekend off to a good kicker, as I want to try and do the best I can this weekend, obviously, and try and please the home crowd. But obviously, in reality, sometimes the home circuit's a bit of a bogey one for some drivers, so we'll have to see. But we cross the line and start things off quite nicely with the purple track acclimatization. I was quite surprised, actually, because I got a few greens, so I thought that may have been only good enough for the kind of optimum target, not the best one, but we did get purple in the end. Tyre wear test as well, got purple, but that was on the second attempt. You would have seen we had 1 red circle because we didn't get the actual target time to make it a valid test at the very start of it. And in the fuel saving, I could only manage the optimum kind of good fuel saving, not the maximum purple fuel saving, unfortunately for us. And I just kind of stuck with it, because I attempted 1 more lap afterwards, 1 more run, just didn't work out. Fuel saving apparently quite difficult here at Silverstone. I think Sector 1 really wrecks the fuel saving quite a bit. Anyways, we move through the race strategy, all good and clear on the first lap. Second lap going to be good as well, get the delta time, and of course we'll try and do a 3rd lap now to get the 50 points, but I should really be saying that I would have tried to get the whole 50 points.
That looked bad. Are you alright? Let me know you're alright.
Yep, my engine had a failure. It was actually, I think, the control electronics in the end that made it go bang. But yeah, it went bang into the 3rd lap. So I couldn't actually finish that damn race strategy test. And I actually ended up just finishing it with 2 laps out of 3 and not getting the full 50 points. But yeah, I mean, Jeff didn't even warn me at all. He was about as useful as a bloody potato throughout the entire race strategy run. So you can see there, control electronics kaput. We've still got the MGUK. That's just on a big flash warning. But yeah, that control electronics is a 100% worn, so I cannot use component number 1 of the control electronics, unfortunately. We do go on then in FP2 after changing that out to finish the qualifying target, only in good, not optimum, so that's a little bit worrying to see. So we'll have to be wary of that, because generally I can usually match the 50 out of 50 target for the qualifying target. But now we go through and swap all our components. We're going to leave a few in there that are a little bit yellow, because I want to try and eke them out as much as we can before getting onto the 3rd row, because of course we're on episode number 10, round number 10. Obviously, if we have 4 lots and we're doing 5 by 5, that'll be just about correct, but I need to squeeze them out a little bit. But you can see the internal combustion engine is on 3, so we're technically using already our third one race too early for my liking. So that's why I think it's going to be wise for us to buy this internal combustion engine wear upgrade. We don't have enough points, unfortunately, yet. It costs 500, so it's a bit cheaper than the, obviously, performance upgrades. So hopefully we can get it done straight after qualifying then. Speaking of that, let's get straight into it.
Welcome to this afternoon's qualifying session here at Silverstone for the British Grand Prix. And I'm here, of course, with Anthony Davidson on what has turned out to be a very pleasant day indeed. No weather to interfere, no problems on the track, so absolutely no room for error.
That's right, Crofty. It's looking good out there at the moment. Each team will have their own game plan for this session, and of course, once the cars leave the garage, they'll be under parc fermé conditions, so any last-minute adjustments need to be done right here and now. Beyond that, it's all up to the driver. Who can keep their tyres in the right temperature? Who can hit their apexes? No race fuel on board these days, of course. These are the fastest cars we've had in a long, long time, and it's right here in qualifying where they're at their absolute peak. Let's get started.
So we're underway for Saturday qualifying with our, well, I was going to say fresh components, our semi-fresh engine components. We're going through to the end of our first flying lap here initially on the super soft tyres. Of course, we're going to be running super softs the entire session, but that was our first flying lap. We come through to start our second flying lap, you can see, towards the end of the session. So this will probably be our one and only lap time here. So at the moment, just a tiny bit up on our delta, just as we cross the line, but that's a bit arbitrary, really, because we come through to the end of the first sector, in towards the village section. A little bit kind of on the bubble, a little bit through these corners, going a little bit too deep there in fourth gear, and then I kind of tightened up the corner for myself with it, which initially kind of gave me some time. Then I lost some on the exit, and then through the entirety of sector 2 I actually lost some time on my first final lap, which is quite annoying. But then through Stowe, really gained quite a bit here through that exit of the corner, because as we then dive into the chicane, you can see the delta time, although still red, the actual time did decrease. And then through the final corner on the traction, a little bit earlier than my first flying lap, up the gears, and we actually improved on our first flying lap, which I was very surprised about, because sector 2 was horrible. And that only gets us, though, to P11, so unfortunately not able to just manage to get into the top 10. Usually we're able to get to around P8 to P10, I would say, is our normal qualifying position. So P11 just on the bubble. That does mean we could technically start on a new set of tyres, but the bigger news is Lance frickin' Stroll on pole position. For the second time this season, a Williams has got pole position. I don't know what they're on this season in this career mode in this game at the moment. They're on absolute crack. Lance Stroll, the young rookie Canadian, has got pole position. His teammate Felipe Massa qualifies 8th on the road. I believe Massa actually has a penalty to be applied to, so we may move up one position. Carlos Sainz, our teammate, in 15th place there, so that's all right. I mean, the delta time difference between us two is not too big, actually. But Lance Stroll, madness, pole position ahead of Daniel Ricciardo in 2nd place as well, so that's pretty crazy. And Sergio Perez also did not set a lap time, so a bit of a hectic qualifying actually in reality, although it looked quite calm for us. But eventually do then buy the durability part as well, so that will come for next race, the durability to the internal combustion engine, so that's all good. So let's get straight into the race then, and hopefully we can go upwards from what will be P11 or P10, I'm not too sure, but one of those positions.
With me today is a man who's no stranger to the thrills of Silverstone. He's a past winner here in sports cars, of course. It's our good friend Anthony Davidson. You seem particularly excited for this one, Ant. Is there something you want to tell me?
Oh, just looking forward to it, Crofty. It's always a very special atmosphere, and also I started karting in the late 1980s, and I was here for that epic race in 1986 with Mansell and Piquet fighting each other right here in my home Grand Prix. So coming back to Silverstone always means a lot, and looking at the crowd today, it's clear that none of that spirit has been lost. And also, we just have such a fantastic field this year, some very close competition and conditions that should make for some great racing. I can't wait.
Well then, after an exciting qualifying session yesterday, let's take a look at how the cars line up. A fantastic effort from Lance Stroll yesterday puts him on pole position, and P2 goes to Daniel Ricciardo, a strong showing from the Australian. Looking down the rest of the grid, we have Vettel, Hamilton, Kimi Raikkonen and Bottas, Verstappen, Hülkenberg, Grosjean and a Toro Rosso, Magnussen, Ocon, Felipe Massa and Palmer, Sainz, Alonso, Pascal Wehrlein and Stoffel van Dorn, Ericsson and Sergio Perez rounds off the grid. And now it's time to head down to the track.
Right, so it's race time, and as ever in Britain, it's nice and gloomy and overcast, and it's looking like it's either a one-stop or a two-stop. We're actually going to go for the two-stop today, because I only have one set of mediums. I use them in practice a little bit for the tyre tests and the practice program, so that's going to be a little bit worn out, and I don't think the medium is going to perform too well, so I'm going to go a little bit more aggressive than I ever have done this season, because really, in reality, if you look at it, over the first 10 rounds, or first 9 rounds, we've gone pretty conservative to what I usually have done in career modes of past in previous F1 games. So we're going to try the aggressive strategy and see how it works. Overfuel the car a little bit, you can see by default from my engineer, and we'll see how it goes from the super soft to 2 sets of soft tyres. But here we go for halfway through the season now, actually, to 5 red lights. So round number 10 here at the British Grand Prix. 5 red lights are out, and we're underway from P10 on the grid, of course, with Felipe Massa's penalty. We have a really good start on Nico Hülkenberg there. Jump him into the first corner, down the inside, 3 wide there with the Haskar, though, and we don't make the overtake work. We have to lift off a little bit to make sure we don't make too much contact with Nico. But now into the village section, Raikkonen's had a really poor getaway there. He's been pushed out by Max Verstappen, and so somehow I'm looking at the back of a Ferrari car, which I did not expect to be doing this afternoon. Of course, Raikkonen won the last race, so very surprising that I'm looking at the back end of his car, but we got ahead of Hülkenberg anyway, and now you can see behind us we've got the I think that's Magnussen overtaking Sergio Perez, with Carlos Sainz sandwiched in between the 2 Force Indians. As we move on later into the lap, though, we've got Daniel Ricciardo trying to chase down, of course, poleman Lance Stroll, and now Ricciardo without DRS, just pure slipstream. Obviously, remember, it's lap 1, so no DRS activated quite yet, but the Australian sticks it down the inside of Stowe, and he's going to force out Lance Stroll, and quite, well, unsurprisingly, really, Lance Stroll's going to go down the order into second place. As we go through the laps, I wouldn't be surprised if he loses any more positions, but we're moving on to back to our POV, on to lap 6 now this is, so quite a few laps later, nothing much has really happened apart from now when Nico Hülkenberg finally sizes up enough pace to maybe try go around the outside. We go very defensive into left field. He's going to have the inside line, but crucially, we get some good bit of traction in third gear here. You can see I'm leaving the room, lifting off a tad to make sure that no contact's made on that inside. Very easy because it's so blind, that corner, as it kind of arcs over itself, back into itself as we move towards the old turn 1. Cops flat out, of course, in these 2017 cars, even on heavier fuel, just a tiny lift off maybe in some of these lower cars, and you can make that corner. But for now, we keep ahead of Nico Hülkenberg, where he's got the Haas right behind him for company, and I think also the Williams car, Felipe Massa, of course, Massa with the engine penalty, or some sort of, at least maybe gearbox penalty, or some sort of penalty, moving him down from what was P8 on the day, on Saturday, down the order on the grid for the start of this race. But you can see as we look behind us, actually, Hülkenberg is under pressure now, and he's going to be overtaken by, I think that's Romain Grosjean down the inside of Stowe, so he's got him there, so good work here. There, no, I don't think that's actually Grosjean, I think that's Kevin Magnussen, actually, my apologies, but Massa sends it down the inside of Hülkenberg, and maybe tries to go round the outside of the German. The Brazilian's going to pull off a brilliant move. He makes this work, not quite, gets squeezed out, but Massa really got the bit between his teeth here to try and close back up to at least his teammate, who found himself on pole, and Massa really probably annoyed by having done such a pretty decent qualifying and then has to go down the order. Obviously anyone would, but he eventually does make it past Nico Hülkenberg eventually on the next lap with DRS wide open down the inside into the next section, and he's got it, and he's up the order. He can try and chase down now the second Haas that he's probably looking at this afternoon. But it was Grosjean, actually. In fact, I got it right the first time, god damn it. Right, so it was Grosjean behind us, but eventually it doesn't really matter too much because he didn't come up to overtake us, and we come into the pits now, lap 7, so only 1 lap later it is time for us to come into the pits, so very early, actually, in fact, compared to what maybe would be used to, because we're trying that aggressive strategy, that 2-stop strategy with the 2 sets of soft tyres. So coming in for the yellow wall set, and we'll go to a second set after a little bit later, probably go about 10 laps, I would say. That'll take us to lap 17, probably maybe stretch it maybe a little bit less, so maybe lap 16 would come in, so it's kind of a 9 and then 10, because obviously that second stint we've been lower fuel, so maybe a little bit easier to take those second set of soft tyres for 10 laps. But our teammate, I would assume, is trying the other strategy, because I feel like the AI will try the default one, which is a 1-stop, so he's going on to medium tyres, I feel, so it's going to be kind of interesting to see how we do. We've come out in P15 behind Felipe Massa, so he was on a set of super soft tyres that was on the top left, so I think he already made a pit stop there, and he's jumped us with the undercut, but he's going for a very aggressive strategy then for a second set of super softs, so unless I'm getting that wrong, but I'm pretty sure he did make a pit stop already before us, the lap ahead, and then you can see confirmation there, our teammate on the medium tyres, and on the same lap as he's going down the pit lane, here we come through turn 1, overtaking him, of course, but now in reality we have to get an entire pit stop ahead of him, on track. And you can see we're closely followed behind the 2 Haas cars and then the Renault in formation. But as we go through this replay cam, you can just see there was Carlos Sainz just out the pits in the back end of the village section. So we've got a lot of time to actually make up in reality. So this may be quite a difficult strategy to actually pull off now. And in hindsight, this may not work out for the best, but we're going to have to stick with it now. We're committed. There's no way I can now do a 1-stop on this set of soft tyres. So I'm fully committed. As soon as I strapped on that set of softs, I had to do the 2-stop. So we close up to Pasco Wehrlein now. We're going to try and make a lovely little overtake. Goes so close with our left front tyre to his rear right, and he's going to give us the room a little bit as we jockey for position. You can see I actually go a little bit wayward getting on the curbing there, trying to get the acceleration, but the front tyre bit into the curb a little bit. And now we've got yellow flags. It's the other Sauber who's stricken there, Marcus Ericsson. So in stark contrast, their 2 races going quite differently, but you can see getting a lot of dirty air into Copse, going wide and off circuit a little bit, having to lift off over the curbing there as Wehrlein's car, obviously the exhaust plume coming out the back end of his car, making me go wide. But now you can see we've rapidly closed up through Beckett, and we've overtaken him, pretty much overtaken him, but even before we get to the back end towards Stowe. We opened DRS, but Wehrlein actually gets in my slipstream and is able to keep up with me quite surprisingly. But yeah, that was probably more of a fight with Wehrlein than I really wanted to. So yeah, and you can see I'm getting put off a little bit now. After that scrap with Wehrlein, my tyres weren't amazing. They got a little bit scuffed up over the curbing. You know, the dirty air just didn't help a lot, so I got a little flustered, I'm not going to lie. So it took me a lap or 2 afterwards to gain my composure back, but by the time we did that and we were catching a car, we've got our fellow Brit Lewis Hamilton right up my chuff here. So this is 4th position, but this is going to be a pretty easy move for him to make, I think. We are closing up to a blue flag car, and surprise, actually, ironically, another McLaren car. So I would say let's do another Austria, but that's just unrealistic there in terms of us trying to do the same thing. We've got so many more laps left, and we have to make 1 more pit stop still in this Grand Prix. And you can see Hamilton there with the downforce swoops around the outside, probably flat out for him, even as he overtook us there in Copse. But yeah, very different situation to Austria. Of course, in Austria it was raining, then it went to dry, so it was a very green track, and just the different track conditions, and then definitely also just that the situation we were in was definitely a bit different there. Hamilton just pushing like mad at the moment. Of course, he didn't have the best start to this Grand Prix, I don't think. Both Mercedes cars weren't very good. Of course, it was Lance Stroll, Ricciardo, and then the 2 Ferrari cars right up there. So Hamilton pushing very hard to try and catch back up into this Grand Prix and maybe try and get a podium if he can at his home race. And meanwhile, for us, we're coming in for our 2nd time this afternoon, and it's probably not going to end up being a great race for us at the home Grand Prix, because Hamilton, that's exactly what I was saying, sets the fast lap of the Grand Prix, and the top runner's pace is pretty much about nearly 2 seconds faster than us at the moment. So pretty ridiculous here at Silverstone. I think Austria definitely did equalise us a little bit with the rain, and also generally the nature of the circuit being a lot shorter. You know, with a shorter lap, it's just generally harder to lose that much more time because your lap times just finish so fast, whereas Silverstone, such a long circuit, very much aerodynamic dependent, especially through sector 2. Yeah, the pace for the midfield cars very much so not on pace with the top 6. But as we come out of the pit lane now, we're ahead of Nico Hulkenberg momentarily, though, I should say, because he just comes out ahead. So we have to try and re-overtake Nico now and try and get him, because it's fair game now, because we're both going to the end now of this Grand Prix. So we have to try and catch him up. We do so on lap 17 now, the lap later, opening DRS, trying to get in the slipstream and tow as much as we can. He's sparking away like mad. As we go into Stone, you can see I gained so much time in the brake zone that I nearly slam into the back of him. So thankfully we kind of brake checked ourselves a little bit and trying to stop ourselves there. As Hulkenberg does lock up though, so can we try and go around the outside? Actually, very opportunistic move. We can hang around the outside. It'll be very difficult though as we go flat out through the final corner. Not going to happen though, but we're right up his gearbox now. So can we try and make anything work into Village? We go through turn 1 flat out here. Closing up as his Sparks probably going to our cockpit a little bit as we go around the outside into Village. Very unorthodox place to try and make a move around the outside, but it turned to the inside for the next corner. Hit the apex, try and squeeze him out as much as we can. We have to leave in the room. He's still there on our outside there, proximity error, but we do squeeze him out then as we get into the DRS zone. We open DRS. We've got it from obviously crossing the line last on that line on the DRS detection point. And now I think that is Kevin Magnussen. Yes, Kevin Magnussen going down the inside of him, and that will help us out majorly now as we can get away from him a little bit. So we move on 2 laps later to lap 19 now, and we're closing up to Fernando Alonso, who's done a brilliant job so far to be in P12 in his McLaren Honda, but he's on medium tyres and he locks up just like Hulkenberg did. So we've kind of forced a mistake out of 2 AI cars now. We go side by side with Fernando and we actually make it side by side through the final corner. Absolutely awesome move there. He did have to back out a little bit over the curbing there. I believe on the replay camera he actually sparked away over the curbing But absolutely awesome stuff there. Thank you, Fernando, for a little bit of entertainment in this race, because it has been a very long, drawn-out race, really, to be honest, in the cockpit of this Toro Rosso, just trying to make this two-stop work, and it really isn't working because we're on lap 21 at the moment. 5 laps to go. You can see now my part just went from yellow to orange there. I think that was the MGH once again wearing out a little bit, and our engine now is starting to suffer a bit, and so much so now by the next lap now we've got Magnussen going for a move now with DRS, of course, round the outside as we go into the swooping left-hander. We're going to try and squeeze him out as best we can as we go into Le Field now, round the outside, just like we were at Hulkenberg, trying to feed through the power, give him the room still, though, on the exit. We do manage to get that, but crucially, compared to Hulkenberg when we did it earlier on in the race, Magnussen's so much closer now, and here he comes now down my inside. He will try and make it side-by-side through Copse. A little bit of a spark there as our front wing, as his front wing tapped my tyre, and you can see he's actually brake checked us a tiny bit there, well, not brake checked, but technically just lifted off a little bit through the apex to the point where I actually hit his car and hit his gearbox there with my nose cone. So thankfully no more contact or damage was done from that, but Magnussen playing a little bit dirty, not going to lie, through Copse. But we open DRS now. It's been a good Magnussen Beckett section. We'll get back into his slipstream momentarily, and then we're going to go to the inside, duck to the inside of Stowe, try and squeeze him out, and we don't even need to do that because mid-corner you can see 5th gear, get the traction, and we squeeze him out there on the exit then, and we're up the order. Now this is on to the last lap of the Grand Prix. It's a different Toro Rosso. It's Carlos Sainz who's been in a scrap. Meanwhile, while Massa overtakes Ocon in the last minute there into Stowe, into the last few corners of the Grand Prix. This is Sainz chasing down Perez, and Perez bottles it. Perez has bottled it into the chicane. He's locked up an absolute treat then. Carlos Sainz is going to come through for what I think is a brilliant P7 there for him today. And Felipe Massa is able to also overtake Perez. So Perez and Ocon finish side by side on the road there. And I think it is P9 and P10. Meanwhile, me and Holcomb will go side by side into Maggots. So close there on the right hand side. We managed to squeeze him out. And so we've got one last straight to defend from Hulkenberg here. He's going to have DRS. Actually, no, to be honest, I think we have DRS. Yes, indeed we do. We do have DRS, so that's going to help us down this main straight. We actually ended up being behind Hulkenberg at the detection point, so now as we go defensive still into Stowe, we get the speed. We've got rich mix. We had a bit of rich mix after we saved some fuel initially in the beginning stages of the Grand Prix. After we used some at the beginning of this race, we go a little bit defensive into the chicane to just make sure we're going to keep this position. When to come home, it's going to be no points for us today. It's going to get the team objective, though. On the top left, you can see the green square, P12, so that is going to get the team objective, but it's a very hard-fought, non-scoring points-paying position today.
It's a fantastic performance from Ferrari. It hardly looked in doubt. And Anthony Davidson, give me your thoughts. How did they accomplish this result?
The difference was clearly in the strategy. You could tell they'd done a lot of work on the pit wall to really optimise each stint and get the most out of the tyres. And it highlights just how much of a team sport this really is. But credit to the driver as well, though. There's no good having a well-oiled machine behind the scenes without a talented hound on the wheel, of course.
So, here they come now, out onto the podium. Wherever you go, anywhere in the world, the prancing horse flags are dominant in the grandstands, and they're out in force again today. It's Ferrari on the top step once more.
So in stark contrast to Austria, where we had an absolute worldly strategy, we nailed the strategy in Austria. Here at our home Grand Prix, you know, I said it could be a bogey circuit for some drivers, and it looks like maybe for now in this game, it is 1 for 1, a bogey 1 for me, because that was a very poor strategy. You know, I went for it, I went early, I committed to the 2-stop, and yeah, it just didn't work. Holding my hands, you know, we did an absolute wonder masterclass last episode in part 9, and this time we did the complete, literally opposite end of the spectrum. So yeah, I mean, Sainz did a brilliant job, though, with a 1-stop to overtake Perez at the end. Obviously got a little bit lucky with him locking up, but Sainz did a fantastic job there, so he comes home as the breadwinner for Toro Rosso today. We still do get a first driver bonus, though, so get a few R&D points there. And in terms of our rivalry with Esteban, even though we came behind Esteban, we actually got the fast lap of the Grand Prix compared to him, compared to his fastest lap, so we actually end up being pretty damn good. But as we move through the menus, quite surprisingly, we actually get a contract event.
Hey, quick question. How are you here? Are you happy? I mean, obviously, I hope so, but you do have some other options if you're up for a new challenge. Let me just grab the door. I had a call from another team a few weeks ago, and, well, things have moved on since then. These are the offers I've managed to put together for you. You don't have to do anything with them, but let me know what you think.
So we've been offered the drive at McLaren, Honda and Sauber F1 team, and no, I won't be taking either of those. There's no point. It makes literally no logical sense in any universe, really. I'm happy at Toro Rosso. We're doing well. I like the car. I love the look of the car, and the car's feeling pretty damn good. Obviously, we did, we did get a brilliant position last time out, so I feel like we're in a good position to maybe get a Red Bull contract for Season 2, perhaps, or maybe at least in Season 3. I don't know. I don't know how really it works in this year's game with how fast you can get bigger team contracts coming to you, but I'm happy at Toro Rosso. So, as you can see on screen now, we've moved on to a invitational event, actually. We got invited to a classic event once again. We're in the 04 Ferrari. It took me a while on the first lap. It's the USA short circuit. It took me a while on the first lap to get used to it and kind of suss out how fast I could go through some of the corners, because obviously I didn't want to just slam the throttle down and then spin out in the kind of triple right-hander. So we only make our first overtake. We have to try and get the first place, obviously. This is the Pursuit Challenge, I believe it's called. So we only made the first overtake right at the end of lap 1. We do eventually get to grips with the USA short circuit. Very fun circuit, I should say. The USA short, probably my favorite short circuit because of the little, the kind of the triple chicane just there that you saw that we went through. Really, really fun that is in pretty much any of the cars, really. So you can see we do get up into P3, and then by the time we get into the last part of lap 3, we're chasing down P2 only right now, and it looks like it's going to be a bit of a tough challenge to catch P1, but I'm not going to lie, it really was quite a lot of fun, really. Right now, I was pushing so hard in this 04 Ferrari to try and catch that P1 there, because obviously that P1 is the slowest car out of the lot here, so much fun to just wring the neck out of this car and try and catch up. In the end, we don't make it quite, so you're going to see we're just a bit too far behind right now. But in the all in all, I mean, it did exactly what it was meant to do on the tin, the invitational event, just be a bit of good fun, bit of a nice break there from the 2017 car. So very, very nice stuff, although we do fail a second challenge that we've attempted now in the invitationals. But guys, if you have enjoyed the episode, smash that like button. Let me know what you thought in the comments below. If new around here, then do get subscribed for weekly Formula 1 content. Really hope you guys have enjoyed that one. Obviously a double upload today, so do be sure to go smash that like button. And I guess I'll see you guys next time. Hope you enjoy the rest of your day. Goodbye.